It appears that we have recording for the classes going forward. The mic appears to be enabled, so we can record our class sessions. And today we're going to continue talking about events with JavaScript. So I would like to start with a review of the 3 ways we learned last time to handle events. Who would remind us what they were? This was the type of event, but the bigger picture was that we learned of 3 ways to handle events. The first way we learned, we said don't use that. Do you remember what it was? The HTML event handler, we said don't use that, so that was way 1. Then we learned 2 other ways which were encouraged to use, and they were, who remembers? The DOM event handlers, okay? And the event listener. So these were the 3 types we learned, and the click was one of the types of many events that we can handle. And what is an event, by the way? What do we mean when we say event?
Something the user does or the system does.
Right, in our case, it will be primarily the user, but it's something that happens that it can trigger some results. So some interaction, for example, of the user with the page that can trigger an event handler is what we call the result. And then our event is going to bind. We have a binding that takes place between the event and our event handler, right? So today's lecture will be maybe a little bit tricky, but I want to bring you the good news, which is that starting next week, on Wednesday, we're going to be talking about jQuery. So things will get easier. And also for today, I think you should focus on understanding the underlying concepts about events. We have a couple more things I'd like us to cover. I would like us to cover the event object and event delegation. And we'll do some examples, but you'll learn how to do those as well in jQuery. And my other goal for us for today is to go through as many examples of the specific events as we can, load and click and so forth, and you can get experience with those. The book contains a really nice set of practical, I think, ways in which you will be using events with forms or to ensure that the page is loaded before you actually start applying the script. And if that's not enough, I also have included, and we'll start doing so going forward, a screenshot of a certain page which uses events, and in the lab time, your objective will be to code from the screenshot the behavior, and that exercise will be also a good warm-up, and you can extend it for your homework for this week. So that's the plan. We'll see how far we get. Okay. So I need to bring up some slides here. Screen share. I think we're now screen sharing. So, continuing from where we left off last time. So we wanted to be in the event object for our first discussion. So it turns out that, not surprisingly, there is an event object that we can use to get information about the event. The event is an object, so therefore it will have a set of methods and properties that you can use as needed. And I have included a link to it. You can, of course, Google it as well. So in week 6, you have a description of all the methods and properties that are available. But it will focus in particular in the target property. So these are some of the properties and some of the methods that are available with the event. If you wanted to know on which element the event happened, you can use the target property to do so. And we'll have a coding exercise which uses this particular property. So the event is passed automatically to the anonymous function, and that just happens. But you if you want to use it, you actually need to pass it in a couple places as part of your program. So for example, here, and actually let me back up and say, why would we want to do that instead of just getting our event in some other way? The reason why is because this makes our programs more what? Why might you think it's a good idea to use this? It can be faster when we talk about delegates, right? It's also more versatile because now that you have abstracted what the event is by getting it to the target, if you write a certain function such as check the username, you can apply it on multiple elements just by passing different parameters. So it extends our program this way. So here is an example of we getting the username text input field. And then we are adding an event listener, which on the blur event, we want to call the check username function. And you guys remember the false? Does anyone remember what the false parameter signifies?
It has to do with the bubbling up
or the capturing, right? So exactly. So it has to do with bubbling up. It can be either false or true. And if it's false, is the bubbling up from more specific to a more general element in the DOM. And as you can see here, you should be familiar, hopefully, and it's going to be an opportunity for us to do a review. We're calling the event listener, and we pass it a function that will get executed. And now this function is getting the event handler, the event object passed, which means that we can get the target from it. After you pass it in, then you can call the property event. Yes? So this was the first topic. And I guess I'll just go through the event delegation concepts as well, and then we'll do a couple examples, one for each. And I think when we do the example, if you are not entirely sure what's going on and why it's going on, it will become more clear with the example. So the other concept that I'd like us to cover today, and actually it would be great if we can get, as I said, through as many events as possible, is the concept of event delegation. Have you heard? It seems like most people have heard delegation, but not really sure what it means. It's not, you have not? All right. I'm sorry? Okay, so maybe it just depends on what you've been doing so far, but delegation is delegates are a concept that is programmed in other languages besides JavaScript as well, so you might encounter it again. And the idea is that we use delegates as a way to actually improve the performance of a program, because if you attach event listener to all of the events, to all of the elements that you need to keep track of, that can slow your program. And we get around this by essentially listening on a parent element and using delegates. So when we listen to a parent element, we are in a position that we can actually handle events that are children of the parent. And that's what the delegation is all about. So that's the concept behind it. So in other words, what we're going to do is we're going to place an event listener on a container element. And if we do this, we will be able to track all of the ascending or children elements that are part of the same tree. Okay. And we saw also another reason that we might want to use it besides that it's faster. There were some issues with using this keyword because if you use an anonymous function and you pass it parameters, then this does no longer refers to the current object but to the function. So you can get around by using the words. And these are the concepts. So let's go ahead and code a couple examples together. Right, so the first example we're going to do would be an event listener with an event object. And I would like you to make a note in your books, if you have your books. There is actually a mistake in the book, apparently. And when we get to it, I'll point it in our code. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Okay, so page 265, 5 lines from the bottom. According to the book, the function called is check username, but this is incorrect. The function that actually is called is the function defined above, which is check length. So we will, we're going to call the correct function in our code, but I wanted you to maybe make a note in case you're wondering what's going on in the book. Okay, let me close this. So new file, you can title it, well, I guess I need to make my folder real quick, sorry. New file, save as event listener with event object. With the example shows event listener with an event object, so you can name your file however you'd like. And I should mention that sometimes it's very common that the E letter is used for the event, but also the E letter may be used for the error object, so just be aware of that. Okay. So I think we'll just go ahead and type it since we need to understand the HTML. Event object. So this will be creating a new account, fictitious account. And we're going to be checking again that the username is less than 5 characters, let's say. We have a form. Doesn't really matter in our case. Get is the default, so we can make it post. We need to create a file here for to display. So we'll just name it success.html, and we have to just remember to create one. And now we're going to just add a couple of input fields in a submit field. And this will be for our HTML. So label. And we're going to have a div. So just some kind of element for the feedback. So it's a div in this case. It could be anything. And that's what this is back here. And in the homework, I think I suggested using a span, but just something so you can put out the feedback. And I think I forgot to close the label. Let's see. So yes, so I mixed up a couple. Sorry about that. So the label is username, and then we need to add the inner HTML, create a username, then we close the label, and then the next is the input field of type text. With the ID of username. Yeah. And I think now everything is correct. So you can just copy, for speeding things up, copy your label and the input, and we'll just reuse them. And we'll create the password. So this would be, the second would be a password, just so we have something on the page. Create a password. The input type is going to be password. And do you know what is the difference between input type text and password? I told you last time, I believe. It's just not going to show the characters, right? And so the ID will be password. And we'll have a div with the ID of feedback. And we just need a submit button. So the type is submit with the value of sign up.
I don't think we want to it's going to change both.
Yeah, so basically we're not really, we should change it, but we're not going to do anything with the second one. But yeah, you're right. We can maybe make it feedback one or just give it a different ID. You can have two divs, but properly we should give it a different ID. And then if we wanted to do something with a password input field, then we can do so. So I think the main thing is that you're right. We should at least change the ID of the divs. All right. And next we're going to, so that's all for our form. Let me, maybe we need to, let's see, maybe just wrap them around paragraphs to, so that they look a little formatted. Huh. Okay, so that doesn't look great, but I think we're fine for now. Maybe just at a break again. The reason I that's not the HTML CSS class, so I'm just focusing on the JavaScript, but you can style as much as you like. Okay, so we now have our that should give a space, but maybe I need to save it. I think my preview doesn't work. So anyway, we need to get a space between the two, and a BR should do that. Are you getting a space between the two? Yeah, so it's my, something is wrong. Here we go. It doesn't actually look much better, but anyway, we'll just work with it. Maybe add one more here. Okay, so this is our form. And now we're going to add our JavaScript. And this is a bit lengthier than before, so maybe we should do this properly. Let's do this properly and add it in a separate file. And also I need to close my page div. And so after the div, we're going to add our script tag. We need to make our file. So it's easier to make the file first. So let me save this in the new file. JS folder. It's going to be, normally the JavaScript would correspond to the name of the HTML, but it's really up to you. So I'll just name it the same as the HTML, except with all of this, with a JS extension. This looks great. Okay, and now we can just bring it up here. I think I didn't put it in the right folder. So. That's a good practice. It doesn't have to be, you can put it all in the same folder, but it's a good practice to separate your CSS scripts and images in 3 different folders. So that's what we did here. And I forgot to put it, so I just moved it there, and now it should show up. I need to save, here we go. So now finally it showed up. Okay, so that's our HTML. So far so good. And now let's add our JavaScript and see what this event object is all about. Okay, we are going to start with, I'm going to try to do this a little bit in a sequence, meaning that we need to define a function check length, but I'm going to put the other code and then I'll go up and add the function. I just was trying to figure out a way to get you to thinking about the flow and how you can, if it helps you thinking about the sequence of what's happening and what happens when. So start thinking about it. And I think maybe if we try to follow what our user is doing with our code here, it might help. Let's see if that is the case. But we definitely need to go back and define our function that we're going to be calling. Okay, so we're going to start by getting the user input, username input. And for that, we need a variable, username. Okay. And we're going to use an event listener. And the example in the book uses a condition because in IE 5 through IE 8, there was a different method with a different name to accomplish the same thing. And I guess even though IE is no longer supported, some people might still have it. So let's just add those lines of code, just a couple extra lines of code to handle essentially all the browsers. And again, when you use jQuery, you don't have to worry about this any longer because jQuery will do it for you. But this is why we're checking here. So we're checking if there is actually an add event listener method available for us. And if it is, then we're going to use it. Or else, if it's not available, we're going to use the IE callback. So if the add event listener is available for us, we're going to call it add event listener. And we're going to be using an anonymous function because we want to pass the object. Okay. So do you remember what parameters does the add event listener method take? Anyone? It will take the type of event. Okay. And what else? It's going to take the function the event handler function and the true or false. Correct. Okay. So this will happen on a blur event in our case. And we will call an anonymous function. So again, that's a function without a name. And we'll pass it E, which is the event object. So we're passing it the event object. And then we're going to call the check length function, which we still need to create. And this is where in your book it says that you'll be calling check username. So that's not going to work. We need to call the check length function. Let's see here. Oh, I think I'm missing a closing right here. Not yet. Because I'm still writing inside anonymous functions. So let's finish writing, and it looks like I think I'm missing actually a curly brace, but so I haven't closed this yet because this function is opening up now, and now I'm calling a named function from the anonymous function called check length, and we passed, if you recall from the previous example, we passed the number of name characters we want. And so the new addition is that we are also going to pass the event object here. And now I'm going to close my anonymous function. So this is lighting up nicely. I'm going to pass comma, because I'm passing a third parameter, which is false. And now I'm closing the event listener. Like so. So I think we are good now. And if not, we'll use some help from the, I mean, if anyone sees anything, immediately let me know, but I think that's good.
So are you, that will be all on one line? So that's the...
Well, it doesn't matter. In fact, I think sometimes it might be easier to put the function you're calling within, on a separate line. I think that might be easier to see. But the point is that we're calling the three parameters are separated with commas, right? So, and then within the anonymous function, we're calling another function. And if we wanted to, we could call multiple. In fact, for your homework, you've been handling multiple events, so you'll need to call multiple functions from the anonymous function. Because that's the way that you can call multiple functions, or if you wanted to pass parameters, you have to use the anonymous function to wrap the custom function. We are going through it right now, so ask your questions now. Okay, yeah, we can, yeah, the example, sure. Essentially, it would be basically check I don't know. I don't know,
Right inside.
setup or whatever. Yeah, so it's just, you just keep on adding them and that's it. But we will do this when you do your lab exercise. Yes, yeah.
Can you explain the anonymous function a little more, like why you have to wrap it in that, instead of just putting a check length?
All right, here.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you wanted to just call the check length function, you could. But if you want to pass, there are two reasons why you want to use the add event listener. One of them is if you want to pass a parameter to your custom function. In this case, we're passing the 5 here, 2 parameters. You can't do this just by limitation of the language by calling the function. You can't call pass parameters if you didn't have an anonymous function. And the other reason why you want to have an anonymous function is if you want to call multiple functions on response to blur. Okay? And that's just the, I would almost want to call it a workaround, but it's just the way in JavaScript to accomplish those two goals. If you didn't have those goals, you could use the traditional event handler and just call check length directly. Yes?
So does that mean each, every, like the check length and a list of them, you would all say E?
No, it just depends what you're doing. So in this case, we want to pass E, but we don't have to pass E because last time we didn't pass E. And that's still, it just depends on what parameters you want to pass. Right now, we want to take advantage of the event object and the target, and that's why we're passing E. I just want to also mention, though, that to answer, in reply to Tiana, if you're using the other DOM handlers, then you would not be using the syntax because you remember we have the on blur syntax. So it's a different syntax as well, right? Just a reminder. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, this is the example. So any other questions? All right, maybe they'll come later. And so the IE fallback, well, so in other words, if there is no add event handler, then that's going to mean that we are using some old browser. And then we're going to be calling on the same element. The name of the event is attach event. So that was the browser, the IE browser version of the event handler was called attach event, and that comes back with an issue with web standards that I don't know if I've showed the movie about the web standards in a previous class with Jeffrey Zeltman. It has to do with standardizing those across. Okay.
So attach event doesn't really come up like that.
Yeah, and we're not really going to use it. But if we had to use it, it would come up at the right time when you're calling, when using your program. And so it has on blur. You can see that's different as well. And then it calls the anonymous function. And calls the anonymous function. Close the attach event method. Put a semicolon here because that's considered a statement. And we are done with our JavaScript. No, so the check length only takes a couple parameters. Again, the point is that this is a different implementation. The IE has their own implementation, and it doesn't have false, so it only takes 2 parameters. If you want, you can look up the check, the username. Sorry, actually, we're not done. What are we missing? We need to define what check length is, which will include giving the feedback. So we called our function here. We knew we need to have it, and now we need to define it. And I actually like this way better in a way because I've been watching some, just a little diversion, but digression, not diversion, digression. Yeah. It's not. So I'm taking actually an MIT Open Courses video course with Marvin Minsky, and he's like the father of AI in cognitive psychology. And he talks a lot about problem solving in humans because he's trying to replicate it in machines. And so he gives these great examples of ways of solving problems. And I'm actually thinking of writing it up and sharing with everyone. But one of the things is that, perhaps your first approach is if something looks like magic, you need to just break it down. And then you replace what you don't know. You put this check length with something that we knew we need to have, we just don't know yet what it is. And so we put these like stubs, and then later we go and implement what we didn't know, and we need to maybe research, get help, or do there are other methods. One of the methods he mentions is if you're a baby, you cry, because he studies cognitive psychology for all ages. But I think that's a very helpful approach. Just get down what you know and put some kind of comment or some indication of what you don't know, and then you go back. So it gives you a bit of a structure to how you approach your problems, and I thought that was helpful. Okay. So let's define our check length function. It doesn't have to be defined on top. It can be put anywhere. I'm just putting it on top. So check length and now we want to pass, before we just passed the min length, which was the number of characters, the minimum number of characters you can have in the username. And now we are also going to pass the event object to allow us to reuse this function in multiple cases. Here we're just using it once, but once you write it like that, you can call check length on each of your input fields. Does this make sense? Okay. So we pass it a couple of parameters. And then we have the variables for the EL is going to be for the event target, and the message will be for our message that we put to the user. And the same thing here, if there is no E, that means that we need to do what? Use the IE fallback, which is called event. Sorry, so no, that's not correct. So if the event doesn't exist, we're going to get our event. This is the way that it's going to be called in most browsers. Otherwise, we will be using the IE. So this is going to look like that. We are going to get the event if it doesn't exist. And then we're going to set the variable to the event.target, which will give us, this is the line that gives us the event that we actually clicked on or somehow used with some kind of event. Does this make sense? This tells us what actually the user interacted with, the target element. And the IE part is just that you, the name of the event is the same, but the name of the property is different, and it is source element. So you're going to just say, use the target, or if there is no target, use the source element to get me this information.
How are we using those pipes?
The pipes, who can tell us what the pipes mean? Well, they mean or. So it's going to be a shortcut or operator. In other words, it's going to check either or, and because it's a double pipe, if this is true, it's not going to go evaluating the second part of it. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get our message node. So that's going to happen with saying the EL message variable is going to equal to the next sibling of the target, because as you know, we put the div next, so it's the next sibling to the right of the target, right? Next sibling. And what is the next, is everyone clear? What is the next sibling of the event? In our case, is the div. Right, okay. Okay. Get the target event. I guess maybe we should say the target event element, if that helps, because it's the element that was the target. Right. Okay, and then now we're going to, you can see it's a lot of work to do something semi-trivial, but, and then we're going to use our event, and we're going to get the value and then the length. So we're calling two properties. And if the event, so what is that when we say el.value.length, what is that actually from the user point of view? What are we getting here? We're getting the length of the username, what they typed. That's right. And we want this to be less than the minimum length. I think I have a typo up here, so len ng th. Okay. Okay. If the value is less than the length, then what do we need to do? Logically speaking, somebody said something about the message? Okay. And so EL message is our variable for that, which is the next sibling. And the inner HTML is going to equal to username must be min length. It must be, I guess, greater than or more. I guess is what it says here. Else, we're going to set it to empty string. Oops. And I think that's all. So save all. Yeah.
Do we define what E is? I mean,
We don't have to, that's a good question. Say again?
I was going to ask if we need to define what E is.
That's a good question. We E gets passed, so E is available when we just work in the browser. So we're just passing it in. It's like you can think of it as a global. It's global object, so it's available anywhere you program and you just pass it in.
So E is like a special sort of vector.
Well, we could name it something else, but the slot here, where you pass the first parameter, it's going to be implied that that's the event object. You can name it Z or put your name. E is a convention, but the spot that it takes here is a special spot that if you pass a parameter in the first spot, that means that you're passing the event object. And it just makes sense to call it E, but we don't have to call it E. Does it make sense?
Yeah, that's variable.
Right, and then you add your own variables as you need to. We just need one, we can add multiple, that's our own function. Okay?
So what is the condition if not, for example?
I should just also mention that the event object gets passed automatically anyway, but if you want to use it, you have to specify it, right? And sorry, your question, Paul?
So what is a situation where if not yes, what would be that? What would we have passed that we would
Well,
trigger?
Yeah, generally you will need, maybe if you got it, if there may be some case where depending on how your program is, the event object was already available. But generally speaking, that's, you're going to need to get it. So that's giving you some checking just for double checking, but you probably need to get the event object here, okay? So let's run this little program and see what happens. Remember to save your JavaScript. See if it will work. No, oh, we forgot to do what? And I don't think it worked because I tried to submit it, so that was a problem. But the first thing we need to do is just create our success file. I would, because it's also HTML. I would put it there. And I would, I guess we should. So let's make sure the name matches. Okay. Shift Control P was it for the hotkeys for the preview? Yeah. Oh. I have some problem with HTML, looks like. It doesn't matter, but I do have something showing up here that shouldn't be showing up. Let's see. Oh, because I forgot the title, okay. So I forgot to say title here. So the difference between the post and the get, it's not relevant to us. It has to do when you're actually submitting to a real server with real data. The get is not secure, and you can see the parameters passed on the URL. And in some cases, you want to do that. If you want to bookmark the page, if you say post, you can pass bigger chunks of data, and they're passed in a more secure manner. They're not visible. So in our case, it doesn't matter. Let's see here. Oh, it saved it. Okay, well, in my case, it saved it in the JavaScript. So I need to move that real quick. So there's one problem, but I think there are more. Okay, so that's working and it shouldn't work. So let's go and see why that is. And that's tricky now because there are no console errors, so it's a logic error. So now we have to go. Is there anyone's working? Okay, so we have a logic error and we have to see what happened here. Probably forgot to do something, or let's see. So maybe we can take this opportunity to review the kind of things we should be checking in a case like that, which can I'm not saying it will, but it might happen to you, right? So what kind of things should we be checking? The first thing I checked was to make sure I'm calling the right ID. What else should we be checking? I'm getting the usernames, okay, and oh, just 1 second. Just get a thought. So we used the blur, so I was hoping that maybe I clicked submit before using the blur, but that's not it, it's something else. All right. So that was the other thing to check. Let's see here. Is the name of the function correct? Check length, yes it is. Might be here, let's see. Next sibling. Is it missing an else maybe? Let's see here. Where? I don't think so. Okay, I don't think that the white space come to place here, but maybe it does. Let's double check with the next sibling, you think maybe? So that's a good possibility. I don't have any spaces here. No, that's not it. I wonder if it's probably not the breaks. Let me look at it. If it's probably the if then else. So let me double check that. That's possible. So we have an if. Yours is working fine. You getting their message? Okay. So let's see what is the difference. We're getting the target. We're getting the sibling. If the value of the length is less than a min length, did I spell this correctly? Yeah. LENGTH, then inner HTML is equal to username plus mid. More. Else is nothing. The username is correct if the username min length is passed in, so we haven't defined it, but we're just passing it in. So it's going to come. So it comes. That's a good question. It comes from the 5 here. When we pass it here, then that connects it up here with min length, and it's checking for that. Okay, guys, help me find my bug. Why if it's something here? Add event listener, blur function. Okay. Save all. And then other thing I should try is maybe, try it out of the, let me just out of curiosity try it from outside of brackets just to see. Is anybody else is working besides? Everybody's working. Okay. Yours is not working. All right. No. It's giving the success, so. That's yeah, we had that last time. That's the brackets issue. So that's not. If you do this outside the bracket, it will work. Let's see here. Submit. Well, if you want to take, those of you who want to take a break, it's 12 o'clock, so take a 5-minute break and I will have to sit here and figure it out. See what the issue is. Everything seems okay. One thing we can do is, I was looking for a quick way to do things. Okay. So if you send me your code, I'm just going to run it through the diff checker and see. You canvas me, please. We'll just do a diff checker and see what's the difference. How about that for a solution? You just fine. Oh, instead of next sibling. Oh, okay. That's interesting. Let me try that. So using next element sibling, it works? Let's try this real quick. Maureen, before you bother, let me just see if this would work real quick. Thanks. This works. Aaron, did you figure it out? Or is yours working?
No.
No, that's not doing it. And it works? Okay, so let me, so I guess I'll change this. Where did you add an else? Uh-huh. I don't see why that would be the case, because if not it, then you're going to get it and then it should be there. So I don't see why that would make a difference. Right, I mean, it does make sense. So here's what we'll do. Let's see. Let's see if this would be quicker, hopefully. So you sent it to me on Canvas?
Yes.
Thank you. Stop sharing for a moment. Screen share. Well, There are a lot of differences, but let's see if
Maybe not the best way.
I have a feeling it's down here. Add event listener blur. I want now she's. Is it because I used the single quotes? I don't think so. New single and yours works? It might be something totally different. Let's think for a second. It's not the code, maybe it's something else. Well, what is it? Anyway, that's a good tool to know about. The diff checker, if you want to compare code, is going to show you the difference in two text files. You don't have to get it, it's just available online. So just you can be aware that you can use it as needed. Yeah, it's pretty nice tool, but it's not helping this problem. I don't think it's my code, I think it's something else. So try it in Firefox. Oh, that's, I haven't used this in a while. Developer tools, web console. Nothing, just nothing. Performance submitted. Well, that was the first thing I checked, but maybe it's worth double checking. That's correct, right? Is there something with the feedback? Diff?
Oh wait, no, you need one.
You need the one, you don't need this one. Yes. Is it the, it's not the breaks, but I'll just delete them just in case. I just don't know what. Maybe I have something in my HTML.
Oh yeah, Java source.
Oh, it's not closed, you guys. Wow, wow. Such a minor thing. You know, I just looked at the JavaScript files yet, so they would have actually. So. Okay, well, we don't, let's see, I'm gonna guess this works now, but so it's essentially just bypassing JavaScript altogether and, okay, there you go. All right, so this was Firefox, I guess. Okay, guys, did you see what the problem was? Well, I'm embarrassed to say, but I forgot to close. That's because I tried to speak and code at the same time. So give me a break. But that's what it was. So whoever, yeah. So it's a good thing that Shunta suggested we look back on the HTML page. Okay, mystery solved. But how about the rest of you? So I forgot to put it. Did everybody forget to do it? Is this the problem for those who doesn't work? Something else? Okay, so here is what. We still need to do the delegation, and I would like us to do the delegation, but maybe we can do some lap time. Let me check the time. It's, all right. Well, there are a couple issues, and I think it's good to fix those for everyone before I move on. If yours works, take a look at the screenshot. In the week 6, there's a screenshot that you should try to recreate and start thinking about it. And I would like you to work in pairs for that problem. It's better this way. So I'll come around and help and try to resolve problems with the existing script. If you already have it working, then go to week 6 and look at this screenshot here, several of them in fact, and start working on this problem, okay? This is it's not exactly the assignment, but it's very similar, so it will give you a good starting point. Yeah, so if you do that, I think it will really help you with your homework. And you're encouraged for the class period to work again in pairs. All right. So let me pull this up again. Okay, let's take a look and see.
Yeah. It's similar to
You have to do this from the HTML page.
It wasn't working 2 seconds.
So basically what happens is that you do the following. I think it is the blood response if you remove if you blur the field. So that was a good point. So some of you, it might be, this is an interesting point, it might be that the program is working, but we're using the blur edge. So if you press enter, that's a different event. You can actually remove the cursor from the field to trigger the response. So that's potentially what's going on. Anyone else? So yours works. Yours is much easier than mine.
Yeah.
Anyone else whose initial program is not working?
Yeah, like 4.
what is the form?
Same with labels. Well, it's just whatever. So.
Whatever you
I think I'll turn off the recording. There is that's why this was here. So let's follow the form. Careful, guys. Okay, I'll take a look in a second. I'm just going to stop the recording. Bye.